Hey, happy Friday, everybody. Mark again here at Weatherman Plus. Now, I have some new updates on what's going on not only in the tropics, but over here for Invest 91L, what's going on with Hurricane Kiko, also what's going on over here for the U.S. for severe weather for today and for tomorrow, with chances for tornadoes and these cold temperatures that's coming through, and of course the heat that will be there as well. So starting off over here in the Pacific for Hurricane Kiko, a very strong hurricane that will strengthen up, but it will start weakening back down. Still, my forecast is yesterday, with the shear from upper level low from the cooler temperatures, it's going to dramatically start weakening down. It's going to barely be a hurricane at 75 miles per hour. Then it's going to weaken down towards a tropical storm, maybe bring 50 miles per hour wind gusts, but I'm still showing that northern path has been trending and showing true, where potentially no impacts, but a little bit of rainfall could be your outcome over here towards Hawaii. Now, we are expecting another wave to form up soon after this one, so I will keep you updated. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell. Plus, what's going on over here with Invest 91L. Latest information has it moving west at 7 miles per hour, maximum winds of 22 miles per hour. And I'm still showing my forecast from yesterday is correct. We still have this upper level low over here that's still bringing a lot of shear on this system, while it's dealing with the dry air as well, and showing it's going to be somewhat just getting itself together once it reaches the Lesser Antilles. It's been trending further south and west still, and you can see the groupings showing that it has gone further towards the southern side, where it could bring some impacts towards the windward islands as well. So make sure you pay attention to the latest forecast. But I'm showing as it goes into the possible Caribbean or a little north of the Lesser Antilles, it's going to go into a different weather pattern where we get formation potentially late, but still showing it's going to miss this trough of storms and convection, and it has a chance to either go into the Gulf or go along the East Coast or still be a fish storm in the Atlantic. We still have multiple possibilities. And one of the possibilities is for the shear that's still hit it, for the dry air to get involved with it, keep it somewhat on the weaker end as it goes further towards the west because of a weaker system. And then over here for the U.S., for your temperatures with this cold front, also what's happening with these storms coming through. So we'll go through this as well. And you can see the latest with Hurricane Kiko, showing more likely we'll take that northern path. There is some ensembles that says it can take a little more of a southern path, but it's been trending further towards the north and less impacts. And you can see the latest on the ensemble showing more likely where it will group up at, where the track will be, and not on that southern track. They're all trending. It'll be more likely on that northern track. Now, once you go past 4 days, it does separate into 3 different areas, but it is trending more on that northern track. And you can see as you go towards 5 to 6 days, that's really where it's going to be. A little close towards the islands, but still going to be on the northern end. So you could see some rain bands come across, bring you a little bit of wind, bring you a little bit of rainfall, but really on the low end of impacts. Showing that as you go from Monday into Tuesday, it will dramatically start weakening down from the shear from the upper level low from the cooler waters and be really close towards the islands, but it will bring, if anything, minimal impacts on winds and rain. Now you see the latest here from the European showing on your winds that it will be further towards the north, so not showing you're going to have big impacts from this system. You can also see on your rainfall, maybe a little bit towards the southern islands, not a lot. You see it trending with GFS as well, further towards that northern track over there in Hawaii. I think you will be okay. Now over here in the Atlantic for Invest 91L, ever since yesterday morning has been going through some dramatic changes. So you can see this here. Yesterday morning, yesterday afternoon, it really grew into the Lesser Antilles. As you went late last night, it drew back. Then early this morning, it stayed around there. Now the latest update brings it just a little bit closer. So it's showing that it is getting a lot of impacts from the shear, from the dry air, and it will be late forming. But once it hits these warmer waters, this is where it can start strengthening up, get some convection, and start fighting the impacts of the dust and any other problems it may have. Showing the latest is that it could form up any day of just a tropical depression. Remember, don't get a name unless it's a storm. 60% in the next 48 hours. More confidence in the 7 days, up to 90%. showing more likely a depression will form over the weekend or early next week as it moves slowly to the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Still showing it's going to meet the Lesser Antilles as we go through the middle of next week. And you can see the latest update for a chance for a tropical cyclone that more likely will start going on that northward path once it gets chances to form by the Lesser Antilles, going by Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and more likely will start doing that curve either out into the Atlantic or towards the East Coast. And I'm still showing right past this is where we have more tropical waves going into the Caribbean that we need to watch out for. Late formation, possibly in the Gulf still. And you can see with the ensembles, it really starts getting far-fetched and quickly. So literally in 24 hours, already getting a little bit of a spread there. But as we go to 48 hours, it automatically changes to a wide array of where this could be. I'm not believing that northward path. The trend is further down here on these. But you can see later as you go towards 72 hours, how it more likely will be that southern track moving a little bit past 4 days in this array. Now past this, still starts shaking up pretty big. Look at this, in 5 days, it's just already getting spread out. So we're literally going to take this system a day or two at a time, because it's going to be a slow tracking to the west. But showing by all the intensity guidance that once we get around next Tuesday or Wednesday, as it starts approaching the Lesser Antilles, more likely will be either a strong tropical storm or a strengthening hurricane still. And the Euro is showing the biggest impacts from the shear from my forecast yesterday. So if you didn't see my forecast yesterday, go watch it. It shows you all the little walkthrough problems that this system could have as it comes towards potentially the U.S. into the Caribbean. There's about 4 or 5 different steps that this system has to make it through for it to be all the way towards that touchdown, everybody. There's a lot of little hoops and loops that this system needs to go through. So you can see your low over here in the Atlantic, still putting a lot of shear on the system as it moves further towards the west. And the Euro is seeing that. It's been taking it run after run. That shear is going to keep that weak, keep that dry air involved in that system all the way for the next 6 days, and don't bring any kind of formation to that tropical wave because of that. Matter of fact, the outlook, if you remember, is still about no formation until it reaches further towards the west. Still showing that is a good possibility, especially with the Euro. Now you can see this with the icon as well. As it moves further towards the west, you get that tropical depression, but then it weakens right back down and it can't get closed because it's getting a lot of shear from this low pressure, this upper level over here. And you can even see with your pressures that it's just a tropical wave just trying to strengthen up, and it's having a lot of issues because of that. Now in the next 6 days, there's a trend that it will start strengthening up as it's going towards the Lesser Antilles. You can see this with the Canadian. You can see this with the GFS. This is a 0Z. And when you go by the 6Z, in the same locations, a little bit further towards the south and the west by the Windward Islands. So pay attention if you're in the Windward Islands as well. Now I'm going to show you what's coming after this potentially. But remember, up to this point, there's a lot of hoops and loops with the shear and the dry air this system has to make it through just to get to this part right here. Now the Canadian is showing that it will strengthen up and it will take that northern path, just like we've been seeing in the possibilities with the long range for global tropics. And if this were to play out as this, you can see the little wibble that would be caused by this effect. Now if it strengthens up even more at this point, it will go further towards the north and be a fish storm, perhaps a problem maybe for Bermuda. Now the GFS has been all over the place. Up to 6 days to this point right here, we really can't say what comes afterwards, because like I said, there's about 5 different things. We have the dry air, we got the shear from upper level low, we have that other upper level low that's coming across, we have a little bit of shear as well, and we have what's going on with the trough bringing all kind of issues. So there's all kind of problems this system needs to jump through just to make it all the way towards the end. So just up to this point right here, it's already a little bit iffy of whether it's going to be this strong or not. Remember, only a tropical depression is expected so far by National Hurricane Center. A hurricane is expected according to the intensity models. So when you go by GFS, the 0Z run shows it getting stronger towards the windward islands once we go towards Thursday and Friday. But look how it takes that northern to that northwest path, weakens down because of the shear from the other upper level low, like I showed you in my forecast yesterday. But then it strengthens up later over here by the Gulf, which is still way down the road. It has to get past this first hoop before we even believe what happens down the road, everybody. The 6Z takes it in almost in the same location, a little bit further towards the north. But look how it's all together different. It's going further towards the north. Now a strengthening storm way out here would help create that big cut into the high pressure and go out into the Atlantic and be that fish storm. But still, once again, this is 9 days away as well. And we don't even know what's going to happen right here literally in 6 days. So make sure you follow along for updates. I will keep you updated on every possibility. But you can also see on your temperatures that as it takes on that further southern route, it will tap into warmer temperatures sooner, help it get stronger and fight the dust, fight shear potentially. So a more southern route would be more of an issue, of course. But either way, once it reaches the Lesser Antilles, you still have all this deep ocean heat that it can tap into and help it start strengthening up anyway. Not to mention what's over here in the Western Caribbean going towards the Gulf. I'm showing some weak waves could pass by and get late formation. I'm showing in the GFS ensembles that more than likely we will see something come off the Central American gyre and potentially go into the Gulf. And there is a 20% chance of that being expected anyway. So you really need to pay attention to this forecast. And you can see this here. So in 6 days, according to the ensembles of the GFS, and you can see there's no formation expected on that tropical wave. Maybe it will be something weak like the Euro is seeing. Remember what the outlook is. I will remind you. And once we go past 6 days, showing maybe something weak passing by the Lesser Antilles, but more likely will be around 7 days around the Central American gyre. And look at all these ensembles saying we could have an issue coming off the Central American gyre still as we go down the road, everybody. So we got to watch the Central American gyre once we get around that 6 and 7 day mark, because this is a little bit of a growing concern. So remember, from the 10th through the 16th, this is where we're starting to go into favorable environment. Until then, we have sinking air, which makes sense for possible formations to have problems over here, like the Euro is seeing, and expecting formation a little bit later towards the Dominican Republic, towards Haiti, towards the Bahamas, where something could form up. Also, as we go later in September from the 15th on, this is where favorable environment really starts kicking in, and we can watch for front-induced systems, also weak waves that comes across, and then Central American gyre really ramps it up as well. So you got to pay attention all through September. Showing in the latest outlook with the European that our favorable environment has moved even closer. Once we go from the 12th and the 13th of September, once we get into next week, this is where favorable environment will come right into our Gulf, coming from the Western Caribbean. So we need to watch out for late formation of weak tropical waves because of the shear from the upper level low, from the dry air getting into it because it's getting sheared from the upper level low, and getting late formation into the Western Caribbean, maybe even the Gulf over here by the Bahamas. Need to watch out for that. Then once we go into the 20s of September through the rest of September, showing that our MDR, our main development region, all the way towards our Gulf and the Eastern Pacific, the whole area is going to go through a lot of lift, a lot of favorable environment where storms can form and grow quickly. And still showing once we go through October, we're going to have the same issue, everybody. Now, real quick, for your severe weather as well as your temperatures you're going to be dealing with, this is where the big blast is going to continue coming through for this weekend. Now, yesterday we had 8 hail reports. We had 7 wind gust reports, 74 wind damage reports, along with 16 rain reports and 2 flood reports with 7 flash flooding. Even Arizona over here finally got some rainfall, but it started flooding and they had power outages. Now you can see for your temperatures for today, for your highs, you're going to be in the 90s across the south central, even 100 towards southern Texas going into Mexico. And those 90s are going to spread across the southeast towards the mid-Atlantic, where it's going to turn into the 80s. But you still have the 50s and 60s across the Midwest and the North Central and the Central Plains, while you still have those 80s and 90s going along the West Coast. Now with your heat index value, you're going to feel like 100 degrees across Texas, northern Louisiana, and southern Arkansas. So be aware of your heat index as well. And those very cold temperatures with the wind chills for northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, North Dakota going into Canada, you're going to feel like you're in the 40s for today. So for today, you can see isolated thunderstorms in any of this green area. There is a chance for a tornado still. It is a 2% so far. But here's your cities and states at risk for a potential tornado for today. This is actually for tonight. They did pick up your wind threat as well. You even have now a 15% where you could get up to that 50 or 60 miles per hour wind gusts possible. So here's your cities and states at risk for damage and winds for today. Remember, this is for tonight. You also have the hail threat that's coming along with this front. So here's your cities and states at risk for possible hail for today. But this threat really comes through later this evening, overnight. So make sure you pay attention to that part, everybody. You can see as you go through the afternoon, you're going to get some storms building up a little bit for Texas, a little bit for the central and south central, while you get some across the west as well. But it gets more severe as you go later this evening, as it starts leaving from Florida, going towards the Bahamas. And you start getting some strong storms later tonight into the early morning hours. This is going from 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock when you start having some storm cells moving across for northern Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky, a little bit for eastern Oklahoma as well, going into West Virginia, southern Ohio, and by tomorrow morning moving to the east towards West Virginia and Pennsylvania, but then it's going to move into western Tennessee, it's going to move into Mississippi as well, northern Louisiana, and you do have it for Texas. Now for tomorrow evening, this moves right along the coast, where you get a lot of strong cells over here from New Jersey towards New England, and you get a second round that comes through a little bit further southern in New Jersey as well. Now that could bring you another tornado threat, maybe even for Delaware going across the Delmarva. So you do have a threat for tornadoes for today, also for tomorrow. So for tomorrow, you could see a thunderstorm in any of this green area. There is a threat for tornadoes. It is going to be on the lower end, but it's going to be for that group that goes across for New England. So far, here's your cities and states at risk for a potential tornado for tomorrow, for Saturday. This also could go a little bit further south into New Jersey for that second set of storm cells that moves through. So remember that. You also have the wind threat for tomorrow, and a hail threat as well right along that frontal storms. So here's your cities and states at risk for potential hail for tomorrow, for Saturday. And for your wind threat, here's your cities and states at risk for possible low end damage and winds. Now, as you go overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, this is where a really cold morning comes in. This is where you get a lot of the 40s and the 30s moving through, everybody. This is where the 50s go really far towards northern Arizona into New Mexico, northern Texas, across Oklahoma, Arkansas, even the 60s across the Tennessee, Kentucky Valley, and the interior northeast. Now, with your wind chills, this is where it's going to feel like you're in your low 30s, maybe even some places in your 20s, especially as you go towards Canada. So the wind chills are going to be really cold for tomorrow. And once again, it will warm right back up, but your highs across the north will be in the 50s, while everyone else is in the 70s, maybe even getting portions of the 80s. But along the coast of the Mid-Atlantic towards the Gulf, you're going to be in the high 80s to the 90s still for tomorrow, and along the west coast. Now remember, we do have this warm-up coming right behind this. Remember, it's a fake fall, everybody, and above average temperatures are going to start moving in and covering across the U.S. as we go through the middle of this month and on. So remember, the warmer temperatures are coming back. And that is your latest weather forecast, everyone. So thank you again for your time. Hope you have a very blessed day today. I want to do an afternoon update, but from what I can see, it's going to have problems with this Invest 91L going all the way towards the west. It's going to be about 6 days before it gets even close towards the Lesser Antilles. So I don't know if I'm going to do an afternoon update. I haven't decided just yet. Maybe I'll do a short, quick video, just let you know the latest information, but I think this will be more likely on Sunday when I come back from Sabbath, when we start updating every single day. Just getting a little bit closer, because right now it is fighting the shear, it is fighting the dry air, and for the next 3 or 4 days, really not expecting much. If it gets that tropical depression, I would be a little bit surprised. Remember, the confidence, the 90%, is in 7 days, not in the next 48 hours. So I hope you have a very great Friday, everyone. Thank you again for your time and your support. And before I go, I want to bring you some good news for those that haven't heard of the good news. John 3:16 and 17. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Amen. I'll see you all in the next update. And remember, above all things, all glory does go to God, our Father in heaven, Yahweh. And I always hope he keeps you safe every single day of your life, everyone that is around you, and forever. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Have a great day, everyone. Happy Friday to you.